Why the electric dream turned into a nightmare text. Let us be brutally honest for a moment. We need to have a serious, uncomfortable, and perhaps controversial conversation about the lie we have all been sold. For the last 10 years, governments from Whitehall to Washington and legacy manufacturers from Stuttgart to Detroit have been singing from the exact same hymn sheet. They looked us in the eye and told us that the internal combustion engine was dead. They told us that the future was silent, battery-powered, and green. They aggressively pushed us to trade in our reliable petrol saloons and our long-range diesel 4x4s to embrace the so-called battery lifestyle. They promised us a utopia of clean air and cheap running costs. But, conveniently, they forgot to mention the fine print. They didn't talk about the broken chargers in a rainy car park in Birmingham at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday. They did not mention the lithium-ion chemistry panicking when a polar vortex hits Chicago or the Scottish Highlands, dropping your range by 40% overnight just because the temperature dropped below freezing. And they certainly did not talk about that specific, sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach. That range anxiety, when the dashboard screams 10% remaining, you're in the middle of the Australian outback or crossing the Arizona desert. And the next working plug is 100 miles away. For millions of drivers, whether you are tackling the vast, unforgiving distances of Australia, navigating the endless motorway networks of Europe, or doing the interstate run in the United States, pure electric vehicle ownership is not a dream. It is a logistical nightmare. It turns a simple journey into a mathematics exam. We want the efficiency? Absolutely. We want the torque? But we are not willing to sacrifice our freedom. We want to drive from London to Rome, from Sydney to Adelaide, or from New York to Miami, without planning our entire lives around a smartphone app that might not even work when we arrive. But what if the industry has been looking at the problem through the wrong lens? What if the solution is not a heavier battery that takes hours to charge, but a smarter engine? What if I told you that a vehicle exists right now that has effectively deleted the phrase range anxiety from the dictionary? A car that just obliterated a Guinness World Record. It did not just beat the competition, it humiliated them. It drove a mind-bending 2,327 kilometers. That is over 1,445 miles. On a single tank of fuel and a single battery charge. This is not a concept drawing from a university. It is real. It is on the road. And it comes from a brand that represents the absolute pinnacle of luxury in the East. Yet most of the Western world has never even heard its name. The history of China's oldest automaker. Text. To truly understand the gravity of this machine and why it poses such a threat to Western hegemony, you have to respect where it comes from. The name on the bonnet is Hongqi HS6. In Mandarin, that translates to red flag. Now, if you're watching this from the UK, the USA, or Oz, you might be tempted to dismiss this as just another pop-up EV startup from Shenzhen, flooding the market with cheap plastic and stolen designs. You would be dangerously as catastrophically wrong. Hongqi is not a startup. They are royalty, founded in 1958. They are the oldest, most prestigious car manufacturer in China. They did not start by making economy cars for the masses or cheap hatchbacks. They started by making bulletproof limousines for Chairman Mao and the state elite. For decades, Hongqi was the Rolls-Royce of the East. The Hongqi CA770 was the vehicle of choice for state parades. If you saw a black Hongqi on the road in Beijing in the 1970s, you did not just see a car, you saw power. You knew someone important was inside. A president, a diplomat, a general. They represent the absolute pinnacle of Chinese luxury, engineering sovereignty, and national pride. But recently, the giant woke up. They decided that serving the elite wasn't enough. They wanted to attack the global market. They wanted to look BMW, Mercedes, and Range Rover in the eye and make them blink. And how did they do that? They went shopping for the best talent in the world. They hired Giles Taylor. If that name sounds familiar, it should. He was the former design director at Rolls-Royce Motor Cars. He is the man who penned the Phantom 8 and the Cullinan. Hongqi hired him to completely reshape their identity, bringing British aristocratic luxury sensibilities to Chinese manufacturing might. The result is the car we are looking at today, the Hongqi HS6. This is not a cheap knockoff. This is a 5-meter-long luxury SUV designed to compete directly with the BMW X5, the Audi Q7, and the Lincoln Aviator. But unlike those cars, the HS6 has a secret weapon under the bonnet that the Germans and Americans simply cannot match right now. Analyzing the 2,327-kilometer run text, let us dig deep into this record because the numbers are frankly hard to comprehend for a petrol head. The official Guinness World Record title is for the longest journey by a plug-in hybrid SUV. The route took the car from Shangri-La, a high-altitude, mountainous region where the air is thin and engines usually struggle to breathe, all the way to Zhuhai on the humid, tropical coast near Guangzhou. This context is crucial. This was not a sterile test done on a flat oval track in Germany, with taped-up panel gaps and no wind resistance. This was done in the real world. They faced massive elevation changes, dropping from thousands of meters above sea level down to zero. They battled crawling city traffic jams in urban centers, open highway speeds where aerodynamic drag kills efficiency, and fluctuating temperatures ranging from mountain chill to coastal heat. The previous benchmarks for long-range hybrids usually sit around the 1,100 or 1,200 kilometer mark. A diesel Land Rover Defender might get you 900 kilometers if you nurse it. The Hongqi HS6 nearly doubled that. It traveled 2,327 kilometers. Put that on a map. That is roughly the distance from Los Angeles to Dallas, Texas, or from London to Rome, and then turning around and driving halfway back to Milan. Without stopping for fuel. How is this physically possible? It comes down to a thermal efficiency breakthrough. The HS6 utilizes a highly advanced 1.5-liter turbocharged hybrid engine. Now, I know what you're thinking. A 1.5-liter in a massive SUV? That sounds underpowered, but you have to change your mindset. In this architecture, the petrol engine is not always driving the wheels directly. It acts largely as a generator, keeping the battery in its sweet spot. The system achieves a thermal efficiency rating of over 45.21%. For context, most petrol engines in the West struggle to hit 40%. This makes traditional combustion engines look like relics from the Stone Age. The CATL battery and hybrid system. Text. The magic of the Hongqi HS6 is not just in the combustion engine. It is in the marriage between petrol and electricity. The battery management system is provided by CATL, the world's largest battery manufacturer and a supplier to Tesla and BMW. The system is incredibly intelligent. It operates like a master conductor of an orchestra. It knows exactly when to use the electric motor for pure torque, like pulling away from traffic lights or climbing a steep hill, and when to engage the petrol engine for peak cruising efficiency. This is a dedicated hybrid transmission, or DHT. Unlike old-school hybrids that feel jerky when switching power sources, this system is seamless. The vehicle analyzes the road ahead. If it sees a long downhill section, it prepares the regenerative braking to capture every single watt of energy. If it detects a need for sudden acceleration, it dumps power from both the battery and the engine simultaneously to launch the vehicle. This is what we call energy agnosticism. The car does not care where the power comes from, as long as it is the most efficient source for that specific second of travel. This is why it can achieve fuel consumption figures that seem impossible for a vehicle that weighs over 2 tons. We are talking about fuel economy that rivals a small scooter, but in a vehicle that offers the safety and size of a tank. It represents a leap forward in software integration that Western legacy automakers are struggling to replicate because they are still trying to adapt old gearboxes to new electric motors, whereas Hongqi started from a blank sheet of paper. Visually, the HS6 is a statement of intent. Remember that Rolls-Royce connection I mentioned with Giles Taylor? You can see it clearly in the front grille. They call it the high mountain waterfall design philosophy. It dominates the front end with vertical chrome slats that give the car an incredibly imposing presence. It screams authority. It does not look like a soap bar or a computer mouse, which is the aerodynamic trend for most modern EVs like the Tesla Model Y or the Mercedes EQ series. The Hongqi looks like a tank in a tuxedo. It has shoulders, it has a jawline, it commands respect in the fast lane. In terms of size, it measures 4,995 millimeters in length. For my American viewers, that is almost exactly the same size as a Ford Explorer, a Toyota Highlander, or a Land Rover Defender 110. It is a proper set 3-row family hauler. It offers configurations for 6 or 7 seats. This is vital to understand. Usually, when we hear about efficiency records, we are talking about tiny teardrop-shaped cars made of carbon fiber that can barely fit 2 people and a sandwich. This record was broken by a massive, heavy, luxury SUV, capable of carrying a full family and their luggage. The side profile features a floating roofs design and huge 20-inch aerodynamic wheels that reduce drag without looking flimsy. It manages to look muscular but elegant. It is a car that would not look out of place parked in front of a casino in Monaco, a country club in Connecticut, or the Opera House in Sydney. It bridges the gap between the ostentatious luxury of the West and the disciplined minimalism of the East. Now, let us open the heavy, solid door. If the exterior is about presence, the interior is about submission. It forces you to admit that Chinese manufacturing has caught up to, and in some cases surpassed, legacy automakers. The cabin is wrapped in soft-touch materials, Napa leather sourced from high-altitude herds to ensure zero imperfections in the grain, and high-gloss piano black accents. There is no cheap, scratchy plastic here. The fit and finish are aiming for Audi standards, and arguably they have hit the mark. The dashboard is dominated by a vertical 15.6-inch touchscreen. Yes, it takes inspiration from Tesla, but the execution feels more premium, more integrated into the architecture, rather than just glued onto the dash as an afterthought. Behind the steering wheel, you have a fully digital instrument cluster that gives you real-time data on your energy flow, tire pressure, and driver assistance status. It is powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8295 chip, ensuring the interface is buttery smooth with zero lag. And speaking of comfort, let us talk about the second row. In the 6-seat configuration, these are not just seats. They are captain's chairs with independent armrests, heating, and ventilation. They offer a massage function to reduce fatigue on those long 2,000-kilometer journeys. The level of noise isolation, NVH, or noise, vibration, and harshness, is class-leading. Because the car operates as an EV at low speeds and in the city, it offers that bank vault silence that luxury buyers demand. Even when the 1.5-liter engine kicks in to recharge the battery, it is engineered to be barely perceptible in the cabin. It is not a noisy generator. It is a background hum, masked by the active noise cancellation of the sound system. Why have you not seen this car at your local dealership? Why is this not parked next to the Toyotas and Fords in your neighborhood? This is where the story gets complicated. We are currently in the middle of a massive automotive trade war. The United States and the European Union are terrified of cars like the Hongqi HS6. Why? Because they offer flagship technology at a price point that legacy manufacturers struggle to match. They are building cars faster, cheaper, and arguably smarter. However, Hongqi is already making moves. They have established a strong foothold in the Middle East. Dubai loves these cars. They are expanding rapidly into Northern Europe, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, where buyers are very tech-savvy and adopt EVs faster than anywhere else. The HS6, being a plug-in hybrid, is actually the perfect Trojan horse for markets like Australia and the UK. These are countries where distances are vast, and full EV infrastructure is not quite there yet. In the Australian outback or the Scottish Highlands, you cannot rely on finding a 350 kilowatt fast charger. You need petrol as a backup. The HS6 solves the biggest problem preventing mass adoption of new energy vehicles. It gives you the electric benefits for your daily commute, saving you money on petrol every single day. But it retains the ability to cross continents on a whim. It is the bridge technology that we actually need right now, while the politicians argue about grid infrastructure. The Hongqi HS6 is more than just a record breaker. It is a wake-up call. For too long, we accepted that range anxiety was just part of the deal. We accepted that to save the planet, we had to compromise our convenience. We accepted that we had to wait 45 minutes at a charging station while eating a stale sandwich. This car proves that we do not. 2,327 kilometers. That number is etched in the history books now. It stands as a gauntlet thrown down to Ford, to Toyota, to Volkswagen. If a luxury brand from China, one that started by building limos for dictators, can build a 7-seater SUV that drives halfway across a continent on a single tank, what is the excuse for the rest of the industry? The center of gravity in the automotive world is shifting east. The old guard is being challenged by new thinking, new technology, and a hunger to prove themselves on the global stage. And if the Hongqi HS6 is a sign of what is coming, the West needs to wake up, and fast. Does this kind of range change your mind about hybrids? Would you consider buying a Chinese luxury car if it meant you could drive 1,400 miles without stopping? Or does the badge still matter more than the technology? Is the trade-off worth it for the freedom it provides? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one, and I want to know your perspective. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the future of automotive engineering, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to Drive and RPM. We are tracking the future of speed, investigating the cars that are changing the world, and you do not want to miss what is coming next. I will see you in the next one. Drive safe.